From America's beautiful coastal beaches to the hilltops of mountains far reaching, or even the gorgeous look of red rock in the desert, to a nice vibrant day in a buzzing major metropolitan city, Americans are talking, and well, they're working too. And no matter which way a state votes, we're all still Americans in this large country of 300 million people. So here today to bring you America's perspectives are Matt Curran, Javen Polson, Gabriela Escudero, and Michelle Beretta on Coast to Coast Conversations.
Welcome in, everybody, to Coast to Coast Conversations. I'm one of your hosts, Matt Curran, and Gabrielle should be joining us any second now. And Javen and Michelle are out. That's why we have four hosts, folks, because we all have full-time jobs, and we're all ready to rock and roll and at any given time, and it gives us the flexibility to do this. But before we begin, if you'd like to like and subscribe on our X channel and our YouTube page, that would be great. And if you have any comments, questions, concerns, theological insights, anything you want to talk about while on the show, feel free to put it in the YouTube chat. Michelle usually monitors our X chat. I'm going to try to do that today. I've got the page up, in and out. But that's the best way to get us is on the YouTube, because it comes directly here. And then also when it's the YouTube chat, we can put it directly up on the screen. So I don't know about you guys, but I have been following and watching the Jimmy Carter funeral. I thought it was very nice to see President Barack Obama and Donald J. Trump laughing it up. I thought it was a good moment for American politics to see that the handshakes between Mike Pence and Donald Trump, the even the gesture between Gerald R. Ford's son Stephen and Jimmy Carter son laughing it up, or grandson, I should say, laughing it up. And you saw the handshake between Al Gore and George Bush and the laughter they had. I thought these are good things. And as I listened to the eulogy today from Stephen Ford, I believe is his name, who is Gerald R. Ford's son. And for those of you who don't know, Gerald R. Ford and Jimmy Carter, after Gerald Ford and Jimmy Carter had left office, developed a friendship, and they both made a deal that they would both give a eulogy at each other's funerals. Now, you see the problem with that is that one of them has to go before the other. So Gerald Ford, assuming that he would go first because he was 15 years older than Jimmy Carter, left a eulogy for his son to give to at Jimmy Carter's funeral. And in it, they talked about bipartisanship and the things they could get along with. And even though that they were entrenched in this battle, that all of a sudden it didn't really matter once the dust settled. And you saw that today, even today in modern politics, right? Like I was saying, with Al Gore, George Bush, you saw Hillary Clinton, Kamala Harris there with Trump. You saw all sorts of mutual coming together, as I would call it. So those were nice moments to see, and I thought very well needed moments to see, as we're in a very interesting time where you have a sitting president dealing with things around the world, such as these wildfires out in California, and a terrorist attack in New Orleans, talking about banning offshore drilling. And let me tell you, that on top of a former president being a president-elect coming in as a new president, and then we have a former president who was former by 44 years, the longest serving former president in United States history, passing away. We are in the last 2 or 3 months, I would say, it's probably since Joe Biden dropped out of the race, but really, especially since the election, we are in a tale of times of presidents. And I think it is such a fascinating time in American history that I don't think we will ever see anything like this again. And if you're a historian and you're a political nerd like I am, you cherish these moments and you think they're really cool. And I'll tell you what, these are the kind of moments that are cool as just a political nerd. Now, speaking of, as every transition is happening, presidential transition happens, it's fair share of politics. And yes, we've gone over a couple of them on the Coast to Coast Network on these Coast to Coast Conversations, but we are only, January 9th, so you get till the 20th, 11 days away. So there's still time for Joe Biden to get some things done, as he is still presidenting, as we see, as he and Kamala visited FEMA earlier today to talk about the wildfires. But more importantly, he has banned offshore drilling. This is not a good thing. Like a complete ban. Right now, he just done this by executive order. Presumably, Donald Trump can go in and just unsign the executive order. Here's the problem with this: is previously, prior to DACA, okay, and I'm not going to get into. I guess in order to explain this, I have to get into some of DACA. But prior to DACA, it used to be president signs executive order A, new president comes in, doesn't like executive order A, he unsigns executive order A, and it's gone away. But when President Barack Obama signed DACA, and then Donald Trump came in and unsigned DACA and said, I don't think it's in the scope of an executive order and therefore needs to be sent back to the United States Congress to deal with. That was his reasoning. The Supreme Court, people sued, and the Supreme Court said, no. John Roberts, the chief, said, no, you can't do that. That's now a policy. You can't just undo this. That's not fair to these illegals. You can't just undo an executive order. Well, then how do you undo it? Because if Congress can't undo this is the problem with executive orders and creating policies, and those policies for under DACA, you could arguably say are laws. And since it's arguably a law, it's unconstitutional because laws come from Congress and then are signed by the president. It's not used by a pen. So how does this go to offshore drilling? If Biden bans offshore drilling and companies have to stop and they're going aggressive at it, you could see Trump coming trying to undo it, and you would have a whirlwind of a judiciary being sued up to go to the United States Supreme Court, to where John Roberts could say the same thing about DACA. Whoa, this was a policy. You can't just give whiplash to this. So this is why it's important to have the separation of powers, and why Congress needs to take over its fair share of power. They've been kicking so much of it to the judiciary. They have been kicking so much of it to the executive branch that Congress is not fighting for its powers. And this goes to a broader argument when it comes to what my philosophy is on the United States Constitution, which is originalism, which is I don't think that our founding fathers envisioned a bunch of lazy lawmakers in Congress not willing to fight for their power in the legislative branch. You see, when the founders founded our Constitution, they thought that all three branches of government would somehow sort of fight for their fair share of power. But when you have one ideology of liberalism creeping in, and sort of that supersedes the idea of legislating, well, Congress looks at themselves as, well, we're just appointers. We appoint people to the executive branch who will do the policies for us, so we don't have to have this gridlock. And by the way, I actually think gridlock's a good word, as it means people have to work together. So the offshore drilling is not a good thing. It will hurt gas prices, because I could tell you what, Javen lived in Louisiana. I used to live in Louisiana. There's a lot of offshore drilling there. There's Gabriella. There you are, from Las Vegas. We're just talking about some of the I don't know if you have an opinion on some of the offshore drilling bans that the Biden administration has put on.
You know what? Hold on. Sorry. Can you hear me good?
Yes.
It seems like I'm having a little bit of trouble hearing you. So just give me a few minutes so I can fix my audio.
All right. You fix that audio, and we'll let you get that. But it brings down. It brings down it pushes up the gas prices. But look, in Louisiana, where they offshore drill in the Gulf of America, which is what we're going to call it from now on, in the Gulf of America, that's where Louisiana primarily gets its oil. They don't drill inland in Louisiana, so that's going to hurt a lot of jobs down in the southeast. Texas, New Mexico, Oklahoma, they drill for oil on land there. But most of our oil here in the mainland comes from the offshore drilling of the Atlantic. Here in North Carolina, there's a thing we do for fracking. We were doing fracking off on our Atlantic shore. All right, Gabriella, you get your audio fixed there?
Yes, can you hear me?
I can. What are your thoughts on the Biden banning of offshore drilling? Just off the top.
The ban of offshore drilling?
Yes, from the Biden administration.
Well, we know that, drilling in-house has always been good, right? But I don't know. I mean, I think we always say the same thing, Matt. We always say we would like less government, less rules, less all of that, right? But I do believe that here in house is it's really important to have the drilling here, right? But I don't really know exactly how it's gonna affect if we have a ban on it. What and also why at this time, right? I think that would be a good question. Why do you think he did it at this time if he had the 4 years to do it?
Because it's politically stupid to do it because gas prices would go through the roof. And so since he's on the way out, he can just tie up the Trump administration from drill baby drill.
Drill baby drill.
That's
That's
right.
exactly what I was going next is on drill baby drill. But I do believe that he had all this time to do it. All of a sudden he's doing all these moves and I'm like, why now did you decide to do that? And of course it makes sense, right? Because when you look at all the things that he's pretty much exiting office. And so, Matt, one of the things that I really hate is like, why do we have to get so political? Obviously we're in the political space, right? But why do we play politics is what I mean when it comes to these things? Because I mean, yeah, we already went through 4 years of horrific gas prices. We've already gone through all of that. And so really who it's hurting the most is middle class Americans, and so that's when I have an issue with it, because I know people might say like, well, you know what, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna wait until we are able to just get a little bit further or whatever it might be. We're gonna get through it, we're gonna be able to overcome. Well, you're not the one sitting there with a family and you can't afford to even put gas in your car, right? So it's easy for you to say that. So that's kind of my issue with it.
It's funny. It's funny you mentioned that. So, because today Jimmy Carter had his funeral, and Walter Mondale's son. We were just talking about some of that funeral stuff before he came on. Walter Mondale's son gave a eulogy from the late Walter Mondale, who had it written for his son to give once Walter Mondale passed away. And in it, Walter Mondale says Jimmy Carter is the one that saw climate change before anybody else, and tried to stop energy production and all this stuff. And I'll never forget. I should have pulled the clips. This is just dawning on me now. Jimmy Carter had an Oval Office address asking everybody that yes, prices are high, inflation's high, but just put on a sweater in your house. Don't drive as much. And then he got whiplash, and the Democrats haven't gone back to that mission since then. Yes.
Listen, Matt, we no longer care. You could put on a sweater, right? It's that easy. And so I don't know. I think that's the hardest part, is because it's not just adults. We're talking about children, and we're talking about. I really dislike the fact that I'm not in my setting right now. So sorry if you guys are having a hard time seeing me, but if you can hear me, that's what really matters, because at the end of the day, we went, I don't know about you, Matt, personally, but I know I went from door to door, and we did call to call from state to state to coast, right? And we knew that people were struggling. And so knowing how much children struggled through this because of the parents struggling, that's what kills me and breaks my heart. And so it's like, let's just stop playing politics and let's figure out a solution, because what I believe is everyone's like, who's going to get the credit for this? Who's going to get the credit for what we did, right? Like, I'm not signing that policy into place because then I won't get the credit or whatever. And it's like, that we need to stop that.
Yes. No, that makes total sense. And you could see that in Trump's philosophy. That's how he's playing the game. He's always thinking strategically. What can make America better? What can make things better for Americans? Lower costs militarily. So we're talking about the purchase of Greenland. There's so much oil up there that no one's even tapped. Not because Denmark's restricted. It's just, I guess, nobody's really wanted to go up there and try it yet. Who wants to go to Denmark? If you had to pick between Denmark and Alaska, I guess I'd pick Alaska. But buying Greenland's a good military operation, right? Because the Russians come in through the Arctic Ocean. You have the drill baby drill on the Greenland. You have the Panama Canal, right? That's important economically. The Republicans and Trump, they are always thinking economically, what's best for the American people, what's the lower cost, or what's a good way to allow free market to decide. The Democrats, they're hampering down. There's always squeezing things or manipulating things to be able to that never seemed like they benefit Americans.
Yeah, when it comes to you know, and all of that. I mean, with all of that, yeah.
Well, hold
I
on,
don't know.
Gabriella,
You talk about
you're breaking up there a little bit. I'm gonna sorry, you're set.
Go ahead. Let me reset up. Go ahead.
You know, I'll let you get reset there. But no, folks, that the Greenland deal and the renaming of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, buying the Panama Canal, Canada becoming the 51st state. I think these all have different levels of seriousness from Trump. When you look at when you look at this, like this is the map of what Trump's trying to achieve. Okay, since Jimmy Carter, it's ironic Jimmy Carter's passed in some ways. You know, he's a great guy. We eulogized him last week. We've been sort of contracting as America. That's what the Democrats believe, that we should just give our land away and contract American land, contract American beliefs. And Trump wants to like expand the map. He wants to buy things. He's a real estate guy. You got the real estate of the world. Okay. And the Panama Canal is a strategic thing. Canada's a strategic thing. Greenland's a strategic thing. So I love that press conference. I thought it was one of the best conferences in the world. And the renaming of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America.
No.
I love that.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes, I can. Yes.
I know. I was like, the Gulf of America, bro. Like, okay, this is hilarious. Yeah, it sounds so Trump, right? And if we look back, when we were talking about the canal, he was talking of, and then even further, where he tells the prime minister, well, maybe you should sell Canada. I knew right then and there he was not playing. Like when Trump says something, he's like I'm saying it, but like I really do have some intention behind that. And I'm like, okay. So when I saw that he was saying all that, I was like, oh yeah, there's no way that he's not really planning all this. Like it's all kind of coming together. And to be quite frankly honest, Matt, this is his last 4-year term.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of the day, he's probably going to want to really, I know he already made history, but I believe he's wanting to really make history. Like one of those history books where they're like, so-and-so bought this for America, or, you know, that's what I feel like he wants to do. So I'm not even shocked one bit.
And there's some good things to that, right? Like Trump trying to cement his legacy as an American great icon is beneficial for Americans because we can sit there and say, well, because Trump did this, America's great. Like we can look to him as a leader, right? Like Theodore Roosevelt was this strong progressive Republican leader. And I kind of look at Trump as a progressive Republican leader, right? Like sort of coming in, changing the old school conservative mindset. Those things go hand in hand. So I agree with you 100%. And it just goes with the brand. America needs to dominate everything.
Yes, that's his mindset. And what you said, Russia, I mean, China, all of them, he's never, that's the thing about Trump. He's not going to let any of them ever come in front, not even the slightest bit. So, you know, honestly, I think that's why a lot of people felt safe, though, about having him as a president, because we knew that, I don't know about you, Matt, but for quite some time there, I was a little nervous, like, what's about to happen to America? Like, are we going to be safe? Is our leadership right? Are we mentally healthy in America? And so just kind of seeing all that come back, it makes me feel safer at home.
Yeah, I mean, again, I go back to even Jimmy Carter, like you were just saying, China again. It's so ironic. A lot of things Trump's talking about is fixing things from 50, 40 years ago. Jimmy Carter gave away the Panama Canal. And for $1. We gave it to him for $1. And now who owns the Panama Canal? Well, Chinese companies own the Panama Canal. Well, they'll say, well, Hong Kong companies. Okay, well, Hong Kong companies are not with the British anymore. They're with China. The handover happened in 2001. And it's just at any point our ships use those. At any point, China could just shut that off, and we'd have another economic disaster. So we cannot let our adversaries have power over us. If we want to dominate the world, we have to dominate the world peacefully. Peacefully dominate. Peace through strength. You have to do it through strength. What did you think about? I don't know if you have any opinions on the Canadian Prime Minister resigning or have any thoughts. I don't follow Canadian politics enough to know, but just curious what your thoughts are.
I mean, honestly, like the biggest thing for me was that Trump had already like made a little comment like, well, maybe you should sell Canada, right? And it'll become a state. And so to me, when I saw that he resigned, it just, I don't know. I feel like those two clicked together. So I don't know, man. Like, do you think there's even any chance, first of all, of us possibly even buying Canada? Second of all, would that even be a good move for us because of their mindset, their what they believe in and all that? And is it compared to America?
That's a good question. So I thought about this. Okay, 90%, and I'm only basing this off the movie Canadian Bacon from the 1990s, but apparently 90% of the Canadian population lives within like 20 miles of the American border, which makes sense. That's the warmest part. Okay. I don't think I would buy all of Canada. I don't want their population, their people, but I do want their territories, the Yukon territory. And you know what? I'm going to Google a map. I wasn't prepared to do this. Let me find a Canadian map. Google Maps, and then I'll share my screen. I'll show everyone what I'm talking about. Okay, because
a lot of people will think like, oh yeah, if we buy it, that would be great, but is that the kind of like, do we want that? Like, will that add to a conservative party? Will that add to a Democratic party? So thinking about those little things that people don't really think about.
Okay, so this is what I think. I don't care about I don't want the people. I just want the land. Okay, and you're going to ask yourself, can you see this, Gabriella?
We all want the land, Matt.
We all want the land. Okay, can you see the screen?
Yep, I can see it.
Okay, so this is Canada. Okay, so can you see my mouse?
Yes.
Okay, so Yukon, this is a territory. Yukon's a territory. Northwest is a territory. And this is a territory. Okay, obviously Greenland's over here. Okay, we see Greenland. We'll own that soon. You buy these 3 territories, you can now connect Alaska to American homeland. And there's more oil up here. No one lives here. They don't want this. And Canada's going into major debt. I mean, so we can just make these territories. Okay, I don't know. I'm just going to guess maybe 100, maybe 200,000 people throughout all of this land. I mean, look at how big Yukon is just compared to the regular U.S., okay? So take this. When we do a deal, what we should do is what Trump should do. If you're going to do anything with Canada, just take that and make a deal to where we're not internally, we're not going to nationalize too much land. Okay, we're going to let companies go up there and just drill. Okay, because the problem with Alaska is the federal government owns a lot of the land, and then they just restrict it. Kind of like you're probably familiar with that in Nevada. I think the federal government owns the most in Nevada than any other state, like percentage wise.
Yeah, in Nevada, government owns 60% of the land.
Yeah, that's crazy to me. So that's
it is crazy, Matt. It is crazy. That's why cost of living out here is insane. Like, anyways, don't get me started on that.
No, you're good. So to answer your question, that's what I would do with Canada. I'd say, look, just sell us your land. You're not using it. We'll use it. And that's what I would do.
And how much is the population there?
I don't know. I'm just gonna guess here. I'll look up Yukon.
I wonder if it would be enough.
We'll look up Yukon right now. Yukon, which I don't ask me why they have that name. Their population. I don't even know if they've done a census. Oh, their population is 46,000.
Wow.
That is like okay. Now the Northwest Territories has 44,000, and the Nunavut thing has 40. 1,000. So just say 40, 40, and 40. So I was about accurate. I said 1 to 200,000. Okay, so 120,000 people.
Wow, that's crazy. So I would totally take the land and the people because it's not enough to be like, oh, that will really hurt America. You know what I mean? Like, and because when you think about it, if you get a lot of a certain population, it could really hurt one party or the other. So that I think that was my only concern. But that's not that.
And that's if they come in as a state, Gabriella. Like I wouldn't be in favor of making them a state immediately. Like same with Greenland, bring them in as a territory, let them assimilate, and not only assimilate, but show that they could govern themselves responsibly, want a skin in the game. Like Puerto Rico, they're losing population. They're not governed rightly. I don't want them to become a state. It has nothing to do with the people there. It's just like nobody even wants to live there, and it's a warm climate. You know, you go to Greenland. Donald Trump Jr. went to Greenland. They got more people waving the American flag than they do in Puerto Rico when they show up. So take the land of northern Canada. Cool, but yeah, but
take it. I agree.
As far as Justin Trudeau resigning, as far as I'm concerned, this is another example of in the West, which includes Europe and North America, and I don't even know if people consider South America West, but the conservative movement is growing, and the left wing movement is dying. I think something from COVID, something tapped into people where they don't like this ruling from the left, and it's just been a slow decline since. You also have to realize too, it's very interesting in Canada and the way they do their politics versus the United States, where we have I won't say independently, but totally different type of election for president of the United States. The prime minister is elected by both chambers to represent them. So it's like if the Senate and the House pick somebody, and then that's the executive branch. So the people don't have a direct say in that. So it's a little bit different, where the establishment kind of gets to kind of pick their prime minister, their president, if you will. So I definitely think that's its tell.
So we would say that would be a great move. It would be a smart move.
Yeah, he's at like 20%. He's not gonna be getting reelected anytime soon. And they got weird laws where somebody has to call a special election and all that stuff.
But why did he really do it? What do you think?
He was probably going to get a no confidence vote, and then have to have what they call a snap election. Okay,
what's that?
So let's say, like, I'm just going to put this in American terms. Like, let's say the House and the Senate just like, they don't have an impeachment up there. They just have like a no confidence. So like, if the House impeaches you, well, instead of it going to the Senate for a conviction, well, the whole country gets to vote now immediately, as soon as possible, within a certain time frame for the next president of the United States. That's kind of the same thing.
Got it.
So no confidence, okay. Boom, election in 90 days. Here you go.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's so cool. Well, you know what? I think, like I said, I think that it would be a great move. That would be like, honestly, that was my only concern, where I was like, okay, would that make a difference? But you're right. Like, it's not going to do it. And also, it's always about land, right? It's always about land. And so I would be like, wow, that was pretty awesome. That was pretty awesome.
It is. And to if you think about the future too, I also think we should rename the moon, since we were technically there first. Moon of America. Moon of America. I think we should annex that as well. And with Elon Musk, I think Mars is on the horizon. So we won't only just own at the rate Trump's going, we won't even own the most land as a country on this planet, but we'll own the most planets in the universe. We'll own one planet, a moon, and half of this one. I mean, America is expanding beyond all doubts, people. This is amazing. Man. This is amazing. I don't know how JD's gonna. Yeah. We're gonna have to go
from Despicable Me. We are going to steal the moon.
My kids love that show. That's funny.
I know, but no, honestly, like if America's going, a lot of people will say something like, "Oh, well, America is not the dad of this or that," but truly, it really is the father of a lot, and it dominates. And if people play, not play, but if they make the right moves, right, they're really like Trump. He could really make this happen, and it's not going to hurt us, but it's going to just be better for us. So I'm excited to see what happens.
I am. I am too. Well, kind of going from the moon, Mars, and owning the universe all the way down to like super detailed local politics. The governor of New York, Hochul, I don't know if you've been following. I haven't followed this too closely, but I mean, I get the gist of it, right? Where she wants to impose a $9 tax if you go into Manhattan as a car. Like, not, yeah, like you go in there, it's almost like a toll just for going into Manhattan. Like, you're just going to drive around. And then a $21 tax on trucks. So this is her idea of stopping congestion.
Wow.
This is going as $21 on trucks. These are like food deliveries. These are your Utz drivers for your chips. This is your milk guy. This is Sam's. I mean, this is everything. What do you think that's going to do to cost, Gabriella? I want to see if you have a wild guess.
It's only going to skyrocket.
And it's already expensive in New York City. That's
oh my goodness. Are you kidding? Have you seen, Matt, the little rooms for like $2,000 that they have?
Mm-hmm.
And it's literally a studio. And, you know, the state will always think about how to make more money. How can we make more money? I don't know. Like, this is a different scenario, but like, for example, last night I took my son to get his haircut at the barber, and so she's telling me how many hours they have to put in and all the different things they have to pay and everything, and I'm like, the state really wants to make sure they get their money, right? So now, coming into New York is already super expensive. It's not right to just think about the pockets of the state, but you got to think about the pockets of the people.
No, you are 100% correct, because so I have friends that live up in the Northeast, and I kind of called them out when the story came. I thought, let me, instead of reading all the news and just using basic economics, I want to get what their feeling is on it. And these aren't like the most conservative people, the most liberal people, and they're just pissed, because this is what one friend told me. He said, because he grew up on Long Island, went to Manhattan all the time. He said, in the Giuliani era, in the other mayor's era, they would be like 4 or 5 lanes. This is just everywhere, okay? Then they would take one lane away and they'd add a bike lane. That's pretty dumb. That causes congestion. Then they'd take another little lane away on the other side and they'd add a sidewalk because more people are walking. And then then they'll add a toll booth and say, well, there's congestion. And my buddies are like, well, we've been driving this road forever. There's congestion because you guys literally took lanes away to do all this crap, and you're not building bridges. I told him, I visited Texas. Have you ever been to Texas? They don't just they don't have congestions because they just keep building bridges on top of bridges. You go to Dallas, it's like 5 bridges on top of each other. Okay, so New York City's doing something wrong that Dallas and Houston and these Texan cities are not, and it ain't money. Because Texas lets you keep more of your money.
You know what? It's so crazy because out here in Las Vegas, same thing. There's so much construction. And it's crazy because I'm like, all right, years ago, they started developing an area that's a little bit further out. And they start building a freeway because they see we're going to need a freeway out here. And they make it 2 lanes. And I'm like, why would you make it 2 lanes if you know that you're going to have to come back and expand the freeway and then use more money? And so it's like they're having to come back, and why not just build it the right way, right? And so anyways, that's my biggest like pet peeve. I understand at times there might not be a lot of traffic there, but if you understand your city, if you're going to run for leadership, you're going to see the vision of where we're going to avoid these problems. And like you said, making the bike lanes and making the smaller area, it builds too much congestion. Then having to go back and shut down the little bit of road we have to then construct more, it's like, oh my goodness, and so now we're all stuck in traffic, and I think California is a perfect. You know what, now I'm curious, do they do the same in California as New York?
I don't know. They're probably in Los Angeles. Gavin Newsom's probably let the fires go too much that they're gonna have to rebuild everything. But
God.
that's about all I know. I don't know much about New York Department of Transportation policy. If I had to study one state's Department of Transportation policy, it'd probably be Hawaii's because it's just fascinating. I've never been there before. I wonder how they do it. But outside of that, I don't know.
I wonder if they're similar, but my God, California. Have you ever driven in California, Matt?
I have a few times. A few
Oh
times.
God, it's the worst. It's the worst.
It is.
But yeah, and so out here, it's consistent though. Like there's a flow, and there's no charging for lanes. There's no, like, you could just kind of go on the lanes that you need to go on. And so when I go to other states, I'm shocked because I'm like, why are they charging us to go on this lane? Like, just let me. I already paid my taxes to build the lane. Like, let me drive on it.
So you're talking about the HOV lanes, right?
Yeah.
I
Well, no,
hate.
they don't charge out here, but just in general, like when you get into any, like, I remember I was driving through a couple states and they charge you when you go into their place, like their state.
Mhm.
They charge you. And I'm like, I didn't know that they did that because we don't do that here.
Yeah, in the Midwest, they are notorious for it. In North Carolina, the people moving down that are trying to institute this idea. Unfortunately, they've won a little bit in Charlotte, but there's so many ways to do it. You can have your Easy Pass; it's on the license plate. Look, I've had people who have lived in states that don't do it, and they haven't really visited the Midwest region. They'll drive through there and they don't stop and pay the cash, and the next thing you know, they have $1,000 bill when they get home because they didn't know. Literally, I had a guy get $1,000 bill. He
No,
had no idea how this
seriously, that
works.
would have been me, Matt. That would have been me. Like, what is
Mhm.
this?
Yeah, and I look, you pay taxes. I don't. The toll booths cause more congestion. So you know, Governor Hochul wants to say we're going to cause less congestion. Or congestion. So like, stop making people stop to pay $9.21. Right? Like I'm envisioning now a new toll booth. Like toll booths cause and slow down economies more than anything because because you have to use more gas to speed up. It's so dumb. It's so dumb. And you know what I hate the most? The ones where you have to throw your change in when you get off the exit. They give you a ticket, or yeah, they give you a ticket. Then
Which
you go
one?
and you gotta put ticket. I don't know. I've been to some of these, and it's like I don't have any change, and so then you have to go through you have to pay an extra fee because you didn't have change to throw in those big change bucket things. These are big in the Northeast. Like, okay, let's say you didn't get a ticket and you're going through a road to give it to somebody else to put in the machine. You just want to take an off ramp exit because sometimes they'll charge you tolls at a bunch of exits. They'll let you go for free, but then some exits you just pay tolls when you get off up in the Northeast. Well, one time I got off at one and it's just this big, but you nowhere to put any dollars because they're just like 35 cents. And I'm like, I don't have 35 cents. So yeah, I click a button, get a ticket, and it's like $2. And then I'm at home or I'm at the hotel. I mean, and I'm sitting there plugging in the stupid, X155. Look at my ticket, and then I got to pay it and all this crap. I'm like, you are wasting my time for $2. This is a waste of time for $2.
Yep.
Makes me so
And
mad.
that's exactly what it is. Out here, actually, there's not a lot of like toll booths or anything like that. I would say only like in like UNLV, like the university, or maybe like I don't know, like down the Fremont or something like that, like an actual like place like that. But other than that, we don't have any like charging to, like, to me it was a shock when I would go to DC and you had to pay to park. I was like, why
Mm,
do you have to pay to park? Like, we could just park anywhere we want. But yeah, every state is different.
that's right. Well, what is your rant and rave? What, I gotta play the thing to make it official. I wasn't thinking. We could start with the rant and rave. Where did I put it? Boom. Here we go.
Rant and rave.
Man, I like that guy's voice. Whoever did that, that guy was amazing. I'm jealous of that guy's voice. Whoever does
Who
a
did it? Who did it? Tell us.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't. I'm not the guy set up. I'm just saying it. It's pretty good.
Wait, it wasn't you?
No, it was me. I just like
Okay,
tooting my own
'cause I'm
horn
like, it
anonymously.
sounds just like you, Matt. It sounds just like you.
Rant and rave. Okay, fun thing. I once saw a clip. This is the rant and rave. Now, this is the rant and rave before the rant and rave. This reminds me of this when I was in Disney World. There was a clip and Tim Allen's like walking around and he just goes. He says something about Buzz Lightyear or just says a Buzz Lightyear quote and some kid goes, "Hey, he sounds just like Buzz Lightyear," and it's like because Tim Allen does the voice of Buzz Lightyear. It's just funny. The voice thing's funny.
That's
But anyway,
hilarious.
what is
Yes,
what's
my
your-
rant. My rant is the fires in LA. Okay, my family lives out there. Okay, they know when anything is coming. Like they are aware of it. I don't know. I'm gonna be a conspiracy theorist tonight, and I'm gonna say that it was planned out, and I'm gonna say that it was not right what they did. This reminds me of the Maui fires. This reminds me of all
Mm.
the other. I mean, should I paint my freaking my roof blue? Are we next? Like, what the heck, right? And it's scary because it makes me want to cry. Like these people didn't even know what was happening. They didn't know which way to go, Matt. They were like, which way do we go? Like, what are we gonna do? So when I was thinking about that, I was like, dang, like what would I do in that situation? How would I know to lead my kids one way or the other? And so I think the thing that did it the most for me, did you see that clip when that mayor is being asked, how do you feel about cutting the budget, 17 million? And she's just sitting there like just she can't even move, she can't even talk. And it's like any politician, if you are going to run for any type of leadership, you need to imagine that these things can happen, because if not, because of your lack of preparation and the we know that without vision people perish. You're not
Mhm.
seeing the future, and so she didn't prepare. That was not okay, and now all of this is on her hands. So that's my rant. That's my rant.
No, and she cut the budget and then pays somebody to do DEI for the entire fire department at a whopping $400,000 salary. So
Mm.
priorities are sometimes not really priorities. Look, my my rant and rave is about Mark Zuckerberg ending the Facebook censorship. I think this is partly because of Trump winning, and he sees what's going on at X. He sees where people are flowing. People understand the social media market as far as censorship and the TikTok with the China thing. People are more savvy to understanding this. This isn't just boomers and Gen X on it anymore. Okay. And with all these podcasts, I think I also want to make a prediction here that the left's new attack thing, if they don't attack it this next cycle or two, as they continue to lose on the podcasting, they're going to attack podcasts as aggressively as they tried to attack radio in the 1990s and the 2000s with what Ronald Reagan lifted, which was like, I forgot what it was called, like the Freedom Doctrine or so, the Fairness Doctrine, excuse me. The Fairness, which for those of you who live in Rio Linda, California, know that the Fairness Doctrine was this BS thing that said if you have a liberal on, you have to have a conservative, and if you have a conservative on, you have to have a liberal to equal it out and make it fair. Well, Ronald Reagan got rid of that because at the end of the day, it's free speech. It's your show. Do what you want, and we sort of privatize it to an extent. So I think there might be attempts to how can the left regulate podcast? That's their mindset going forward. Like how can the left try to regulate podcasts and decensor these voices?
Right.
And Mark Zuckerberg gives them another punch in the gut for now. I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm cautiously applauding. But Mark Zuckerberg's like any other person in an industry, right? Like he's gonna look out for his company. What's best for his company? You want to make money. You got to go which way the wind blows. That right? And
Yep.
and so you don't want government intervening with that too much.
I was gonna say though, like, well, first of all, he looked like really young and almost like a thug. Like I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
I was like, what's going on with Mark Zuckerberg? Like, but for real, on a real note, when I saw that, I was just like, oh wow, like, I remember one time someone told me that unfortunately they have to pretty much play politics if you're in a business. If you're in business and you have a big business, it's like you almost are forced to play politics. And so it's like, wow, that's crazy. When I saw that, that's the thing that I thought about.
And some of that makes sense if you're in big business. I mean, even Blockbuster. I was just watching a documentary on Blockbuster. Okay, so the big video store. I mean, they had to play politics with a bunch of local municipalities on where they want to set up their, their these new buildings, right? And they don't want it. They don't want to always be in line with whatever the municipality's building standards are, as far as like the way it looks like. So there's always that politic that's going to go on, whether it's local, state, or whatever. What I don't like are the subsidies, and politics has also always happened with media companies, right? Like favoring one or another, or someone running for office.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the biggest form of. I mean, we've seen it through this whole campaign, and I think we're seeing it now. I mean, what else do media people have to say than, oh, the Democrats messed up? Of course, they're gonna blame. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I mean, even John Adams, our second president of the United States. You would think, oh, the First Amendment had just passed. Well, he tried to say you can't say anything bad about the president of the United States, right? And that was eventually repealed by the very next Congress because they thought it was unconstitutional. Never even got to the Supreme Court. We didn't even have Marbury versus Madison yet at that point. But still, like it's been going on forever. The Richard Nixon. I mean, look, even Superman and Lois, right? Like the whole idea that she's covering him a certain way and everything, working at the newspaper. So it's always been a lifeblood in our politics, and hopefully next week we'll have 4 of us to cover you guys. We are, and there's Gabriella. She's leaving early. Bye, Gabriella. But next week, folks, 4 of us will be. Hopefully, all 4 of us will be here. Remember, we all 4 have lives. We're all 4 busy. We're all 4 working. And so we try to rotate things in and out. And we're planning in the next couple of months a couple of exciting things where we'll have rotating guests on our show. We'll have more of our co-hosts. We know that you guys have enjoyed our special guests and co-hosts. So hopefully those will be coming with you soon. And in a few weeks, I will be down in Las Vegas with Gabriella. And don't really have a topic picked out yet. You know how fast Donald Trump is and things go. I know. We'll have to see how what the news of the week is. So,
we're gonna do our first talk in person.
And hey, I still owe Michelle a polar plunge. I'm just hoping when I see her, it's like June, and I can be like, yay. So I'm glad I'm going to Nevada.
I'm excited to be able to record together.
It'll be fun. I'm excited. I've always liked. We could talk for a little while here. I always like Las Vegas in some ways because you get a little bit of the California thing. You get a little bit of the Utah and Arizona thing because it's like right there. You get the Red Rock. You got that Death Valley feel, which is where me and my buddies were going to go. We're going to go to Death Valley. You know, there's not really hotels if you want to go to Death Valley or what's that other national park? Not Joshua Tree, the one between Death Valley and Joshua Park. Here, I'm looking at my map right now.
Zion?
No,
Zion?
What is it? Hold on. I can't see what it is. It's it's way up there. Never mind. The Yosemite one. So yeah, you got Zion, you got the Grand Canyon that's right there. Like it is a good place to hit all of those cool little national parks. What's your favorite park down there in Las Vegas?
I honestly haven't been to many. I've only been to the Grand Canyon.
Oh no, not even national parks. Not even national, like state parks, local park, like a place to to hike.
Of course. But Lone Mountain maybe. Lone Mountain, which is
wow.
You could see all of Las Vegas there, you know. But I've never done anything fun like Zion or anything like that.
What about Valley
I
of
have.
Fire? That's my favorite in Las Vegas, the state park, Valley of Fire.
Oh,
Have you ever been there?
How come you've gone to these places and not me? What's wrong with me? I need to go.
Well, when you're a local, you take it for granted. I've learned my lesson doing that many a times.
That's so true.
Because like when I lived in Louisiana, people asked me, "It's like, oh, how many times you go? You probably on Bourbon Street all the time." I was like, honestly, I only went to Bourbon Street one time, and I walked it with a dude in flip flops. Like I had a buddy, just all he wore was flip flops, and then we had like 3 other guys. We literally just walked it and then went to a restaurant. I was like, that's it.
Oh
Lived in
my
this-
goodness.
so
I don't
yeah,
know where I went when I was little, but I had like I don't know some sandals too, and it was like I mean I guess I have gone to one park with it has hot water, so maybe it was like Hot Springs or something like
Hot
that.
Springs,
But
Arkansas. That's
oh yeah, no, that was not Hot Springs. It was here in Las Vegas.
it was not Arkansas.
Disregard, erase that part. Anyways, but I will say that I tore my sandals up, and it was the worst idea ever.
I'm trying to think of the other national park that has hot water because I know Hot Springs, Arkansas has hot water, and because I've been there and I've been there twice, but I want to do more at Hot Springs. Like I've never had time to like do everything I want to do there. Well, whatever it is, if I think of it, I'll mention it next time. Well, thank you guys for coming out with us this week, and we will see y'all next week. Feel free to share, like, subscribe, the whole 9 yards. So y'all have a blessed evening. Thank you, Gabriella.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too, dear. Bye.